Hello, all of you. Today we are discussing the NIA Amendment Act of 2019. Why this amendment was done, what are the various issues that arise out of this amendment, and the conclusion. What is the efficacy of amending the NIA Act of 2008 in 2019? And what are the desired result? What are the various issues that arise out of it? And is it viable? So these are the various concerns that this amendment has brought. Now let us try to examine these amendments. What happened was this amendment was passed in 2019, last year itself. Now, what actually is NIA? If we see what is NIA, this is National Investigation Agency, which was formed after the 26/11 Mumbai attacks, because it was felt that in order to deal with issues related to terrorism, we need a premier investigating and counter terror agency. CBI alone cannot tackle it because CBI already has so many cases related to crime. So it was formed in the wake of Mumbai terror attacks. Now it investigate cases listed in Act's schedule. So there is a schedule attached to the NIA, which has cases related to India's security and integrity. Now it does not probe cases which are like murder or rape, which are probed by the IPC, the Indian Penal Code. So there is a separate schedule attached, and it prosecutes those cases which are like Atomic Energy Act of 1962, the UAPA Act 1967, which was again amended last year. We have already discussed it. There is a video which I have made and put it on this channel. You can watch that as well, the UAPA Amendment Act. So these two acts were attached as schedule to the NIA. Anything related to these two acts, that is the Atomic Energy Act 1967 and the UAPA Act, now amended to UAPA Amendment Act 2019, anything related to these two cases shall be probed by the NIA. Now, NIA can enter any state to investigate and arrest people without permission from state government under Section 6, Clause 5. Now, this is a very controversial component of this amendment. Now, Section 6, Clause 5 allows the Union Home Ministry, that is the Home Minister of India, to direct the NIA to he can ask the NIA to take over and investigate any offense from the schedule list. I'll give you an example. There was this famous case of Bhima Koregaon. 31st December 2017, Elgar Parishad, this organization name is Elgar Parishad, that delivered some speeches in Pune. The very next day, on 1st January 2018, there were very abrupt cases of violence in Pune. So it was probed, and the state home ministry, the Maharashtra Home Ministry, formed an SIT. Now the union government was not happy with that. Union government wanted it to be probed by some federal agency, some central agency. Now, under the existing laws, CBI cannot probe unless a court, a high court or the Supreme Court requests it, or the state requests it, or center and the state government are agreeing with each other that this case need to be probed by the CBI. Now, state government was initially not giving the consent. The Maharashtra Home Minister clearly said that we have formed an SIT, a special investigation team. We do not need center to come here. But union government wanted a probe, an investigation by any of its central agency. So they asked NIA to go and probe it. Now the state was left with no option. The case is currently being probed by the NIA. So this is what the Section 6 Clause 5 allows the union government to do. NIA can also take suo motu cognizance of terrorist acts anywhere in India. Suo motu is a legal term. It means on its own. So NIA on its own can take any cases of terror which happen in India on its own. Now, what is the amendment? What are the amendments that it has done? We have categorized it into three categories. The first one is the jurisdiction. Jurisdiction literally means the area under which it can be operative. What is the अधिकार क्षेत्र? हिंदी में इसको कहते हैं अधिकार क्षेत्र. So what is the jurisdiction? On what areas under which cases can be probed by it? So NIA can register cases if India's asset in a foreign country or Indian living abroad are attacked. Post amendment in 2019 to the Act of NIA, NIA can register cases if any Indian or any Indian asset. When I say any Indian asset, it means an Indian living abroad or an Indian company which has been harmed or an Indian who has been attacked. NIA can go register case and probe the case. Now, will it work? There is a big apprehension whether this will work or not. Now, that largely depends on our bilateral relation with the country where this attack has happened. So, despite all the reservations and apprehensions, the will it work or not, it remains to be seen. When there will be a case and I will go there, the host country, how does it react or operate, that remains to be seen. But this is what the amendment has allowed. Second classification is the formation of special courts. Now, existing session court will function as special court. So what happened is the session court in any state can function as this special court, because special court in any state needs 6 to 7 months to function, because the state high court gives permission for that. Now all these take 6 to 7 months. By that time, the circumstantial evidences, the prima facie evidences, everything is being diluted. Imagine a hi-fi murder or a terror attack, and then post 6 to 7 months, there will be no evidence left. So that is why the existing provision that the session court will turn into special court so that the cases can be carried on in a faster way. Third is the offense. Like I said, the schedule was already there, and UAPA and explosive amendment, this Atomic Energy Act 1962 was the schedule offense. Now the offenses have increased to human trafficking, offenses related to counterfeit, that is fake currency or banknotes, manufacture or sale of prohibited arms, cyber terrorism, and offenses under the Explosive Substance Act 1908. The thing is, everything is interconnected. Human trafficking, counterfeit currency, prohibited arms, cyber, they all are inevitably linked to terror. If you read internal security in your general studies paper 3, you will come across this fact. That's how inevitably these things are linked with each other. Terrorism cannot act in isolation. It needs finance that comes from human trafficking, from counterfeit currency, from every illegal thing. It's the organized crime that is now largely fueling and financing the acts of terror. So why not probe these offenses as well? That is what the amendment intends to do. Now we shall see the issues that had arisen out of it. First thing is the question of federal structure. India is a federa sua genere. This we have studied in polity. Now, of its own, sua genere means of its own. Now, state has the jurisdiction, state decides the law and order issue. Now imagine a federal agency, a central agency going into a state, just like this Elgar Parishad, the Maharashtra chief minister had to say, if that home ministry wants to get this case probed by the NIA, I agree to it, because he had no other choice. The state chief minister cannot do much if the home minister sends NIA. So will it undermine the federal structure of India? Because law and order is a state subject. So will not it give unnecessary advantage to the union government? This is one question. Second, the constitutional mandate. Can NIA just is linked with the federal structure, because as I said that law and order is a state subject. So how can central on the union government take all calls on a state subject? These two are interlinked. And third is the adequate infrastructure. We have seen that even cyber crimes will be dealt by the NIA. Now, is NIA having enough personnel? Do they have enough trained personnel who can take cases regarding cybercrime? Because cybercrime is a very skillful crime, and in order to tackle that skillful crime, you need to have more skills than the criminals. So is NIA having those skill set of professionals who can probe these cases? That's a big question mark. Then political misuse and vendetta. Mostly the anti-terror laws, if we see the cases of Kota and Tada, they were to some extent used for political vendetta. So will it be misused and political vendetta will be settled? Again, it's a huge apprehension, and only time will tell whether it is correct or not. So what is the conclusion? And how do we end this? If you are asked a question related to NIA in your exam, in your main exam, then what should you write? Conclusion should be that threat perception to India, both from outside and from within, is huge. There is no denying this fact. India is one of the top targets of terrorist organizations. So we need tougher laws. Then, second democratic country after Israel to face many bomb blast. India is only the second democratic country. When I say democratic country, I'm not including theological states. I'm not including communist states. Democratic countries. First one is Israel, which has faced so many bomb blasts. The second one is India. So this evidence, this very fact, strengthens our belief that the threat perception to India from the acts of terror is huge. So, of course, law is needed. Then the rise of Islamic State, of course, and ISIS has made their map, which they call Khurasan. Now that map of Khurasan starts from Middle East, it stretches to India, Bangladesh. So India is very much a part of that Khurasan territory, which IS envisions. So there have been cases, many states of India, right from Kashmir to Andhra Pradesh to Maharashtra to Tamil Nadu to Kerala, where people from these states have joined the this ISIS. So see, there is nothing denying this fact that India is one of the prime targets. So India needs tough terror laws so to mitigate all these challenges. And we must remember that terrorism is not a normal law and order problem, and it needs some extraordinary solutions as well. So stringent laws are the need of the hour. We cannot just wish them away. Whether it will be misused or not, that remains to be seen. As I said, we go out, accidents happen on road. It does not mean that people will not go on road, go out on road and travel on road. It does not mean that people will not drive their vehicles on road or walk on road. The thing is to implement traffic rules in a better way. Similarly, if these laws, this such law will be misused, there can always be a judicial review. Always PILs can be filed in the apex court. And to quote Gunnar Myrdal, he was a Swedish economist and sociologist. He has defined what is called a soft state. So, in the name of liberalism, in the name of secularism, we cannot allow India to become a soft state. We need tougher laws. If at all those laws will be misused, judiciary can scrap that. People can approach the highest court. For the hour, we need these laws. So this is what I had to convey to you today after the about this NIA Act. And this act can be seen as an extension to the UAPA Act, which I have already discussed. There is video on this channel. I request you all to watch it. And there were many students who were asking me, does India need, after this watching this UAPA video, that does India need such act because it can be misused? So here is the answer. You can use these points and the explanation that I have given to justify both UAPA and NIA. That's all from me for now. Take good care. We'll be back with more such videos for you. Happy learning.